that issue. And so I think their funding might have changed, to be honest. And so the right is not the monolith that we thought they are. And right now, since they've gotten past their robotic establishment, they're in a state of kind of chaos, a chaos that's not so bad in my opinion. And you're seeing it today, like MAGA attacking Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. If they were a monolith and they were robots and they were a cult, that would never happen. Now, I happen to agree with Elon and Vivek on that issue.
I was going to ask you, actually.
Yeah, but first of all, hey, there I am agreeing with Elon and Vivek. Why? Because they agree with us on H-1B.
So this is about HB1 visas and allowing high-skilled professional immigrant workers who work in tech to be allowed in. The MAGA base says that that's obviously immigration and they want to cut down on that. But Elon and Vivek, again, two millionaire and the richest man on earth, want that. Does that not fly in the face of some of what you've been saying about the base?
And Mel, you bring up a really great point. And so Cenk is also an immigrant. Vivek and Elon Musk are immigrants. So and again, let's not forget, right? Sorry to interrupt, but let's not forget that Elon, again, still has some Democrat or liberal views, which is fine, right? And this might be one of his liberal views where he's like, hey, maybe we should allow these visas for these certain high-paying jobs or high-paying skills, right? You bring up a great point. So they because they are immigrants and they benefited from some of the things of being immigrant, they're trying to, I guess, soften up the MAGA base, right? And some of the MAGA base is just like, hey, no, it's like all or nothing, right? And here's where I got to be objective.
Wait a minute.
I do understand what they're saying, and I get where they're going with it, right? Because they're thinking about it from a resource standpoint. These people are not just your criminals and your low-paying immigrants. These people have more of a skill. I got it. They can contribute more to society. I got it. But the way that I am, and maybe I am part of the MAGA base or whatever, but they got to come here legally. It just has to be, right? Because if that's the case, again, you've created the loophole for them to just come here, and as long as they get an education, then they could just bypass and we can just ignore everything they did before. And we just can't allow that. So let's get into the rest of it, right? I forgot that they talked about this part, so it was a great segment or segue into this.
Base and how the base is actually great and the base has great populist ideas. One of those populist ideas, Cenk, is mass deportations, is stopping any migration, is getting people out of this country.
Yeah. So, Franny, it's a great question. And so that's why what's happening today is actually so interesting. Because, number one, are we allowed to agree with anyone on the other side? Elon said terrible things. He backed that crazy radical right-wing party in Germany, et cetera, right? But that doesn't mean he's wrong about these visas. We've had that position on visas our whole lives, right? We agree with, or he has now come to agree with us. Same with Vivek. Now, but what's interesting is, so now MAGA, the populist base of MAGA, rebels against Elon and Vivek. So number one, that shows that that my thesis that they will rebel against their leaders is true. Okay. Now, do I agree with them on this rebellion? I don't. But remember, just because they're populist doesn't mean they agree with us on everything. On social and cultural issues, we have massive disagreements, massive. I'm looking for the agreements on the economically populist stuff. So on this one, they're anti-immigration. And so, again, it's not a monolith. It's a little bit more complicated. But overall, the massive MAGA is anti-immigration. And I obviously don't agree with them on that. I'm an immigrant, and I'm first generation. I wasn't even born here, right? So all this talk of deportations, and now this crazy thing that one of them came out with, denaturalizing people, that's just nuts, right?
But my thing is, Cenk, I'm assuming came here legally, even if he wasn't born here, right? Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I don't know much about him, but I'm guessing he came here legally and went through the right channels to actually get citizenship. I'm guessing.
So, And I say that to their face in all the shows that I go on. I go, look, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. I think you're nuts on this, right? But now we do agree on some things, anti-war, anti-corruption, etc. Even if they, I know, guys, I know Trump is massively corrupt, and they've been misdirected.
Look, he already know. He must. Hey, he reminds me of the same thing that I do when I have to argue with the Democrat. I have to stop them because you kind of already know where the conversation is going. Some of you guys have already heard me say this before. What Cenk just did is what I've done to so many Democrats, just like this.
I know, guys, I know Trump is massively corrupt.
But I say it in a very sarcastic way. Like, okay, I get you're going to talk about Trump, January 6th, blah, blah, blah. But
and they've been misdirected. But within that chaos of the right wing, interesting different coalitions can break out, as you're seeing today with these different coalitions within MAGA. Yeah. So imagine if we had, look, this is really wild, right?
So I think y'all get the point, right? Cenk was born in Turkey, all right? Born in Turkey. Legal immigration, I don't have a problem with. It helped build this country. Yeah, exactly. It was exactly. So I think, yeah, I mean, listen, I would guess over 90% of Americans would be okay with it, okay? So, and that's kind of like, again, that's kind of common sense, right? We want people to come in the right way. We want them to be vetted. We don't just want anybody just crossing the border because they think that America's a good country. And I would guess that Cenk came in the right way too. See, this is the thing about MAGA that I do like, right? If we want to just label people, right, and we'll name them the MAGA base, is they, you know what? They're very understanding people. They also stand and believe the things that they love, which is Donald Trump. They listen. They can argue with you up and down if you want to go through those same talking points. They stand on it. But also, some people that were MAGA that I've had conversations with, they've had some things that they agree with on the left. Not the woke agenda, but they say, I can understand why they want to do this, right? They've been understanding people. On the left, however, when you have a conversation about anything that you may remotely say, you know what, I understand why Trump wants this. They cannot see it.
Sensational.
They will argue you up and down how bad it is. They can't even take off their blinders to see, okay, well, I get why Trump wants to try to maybe put tariffs on this country or why he wants mass deportations or why he talks about the criminals that have entered here, why he talks about Lake and Riley, why he talks about, maybe even an incident that happened in a subway in New York, why these type of things are important. They don't want to hear it at all.
Sensational.
They're just, no, that doesn't happen. They're not taking over apartment complexes in Colorado. They are not illegal out there in Springfield, Ohio. They have a temporary legal status, even though that does not mean that they came here legally. They don't want to argue these things. They don't want to hear anything. And that's why the left is deaf.
Sensational.
For the left is deaf because they don't understand that we can agree and disagree on a lot of things. But we don't have to disagree on everything. This is why you've seen the RFK Juniors of the world, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk. Should we continue down the list of Democrats that have now switched over to Republican or considered to be Republican or working with Republicans? Because they understand RFK Jr. and Donald Trump don't agree on every single policy. They don't. But you know what they agree on? Health. They agree on some of the things in our food is bad. They agree on that. And that is where we want to get back to in politics. Hey, you don't like illegal immigration? I don't like illegal immigration. You might be for the LGBTQ community. I'm not, but that's okay. And we can come together and we can agree to disagree on a few things and we can agree on some things. we shouldn't be disagreeing on every single thing that Donald Trump wants to bring into play. And that is what Cenk is saying right here. Cenk is basically saying, listen, there are some things that Donald Trump is doing, I'm assuming he's saying this, that are okay. Everything can't be bad. What this lady is doing is she's doing exactly what has lost him the election. Right? And I'm going to read your comment up here too that Mel said. She's doing exactly what lost him in the election, which is being deaf and hard-headed to understanding the other issues that America faces. This is exactly what happened. They can't understand why 76 million people went and voted for Donald J. Trump. Right? They can't fathom why people said we want Trump back in office. They don't get it. They don't get it. They don't understand why people are okay with getting rid of immigrants. Why we want these wars to stop. Why we care about inflation going down and the interest rate going down to something that's manageable for the American family. Why grocery prices are hurting us and gas prices are hurting us. Why we care so much about these things on an everyday level. They don't get it. Because they're wondering why Kamala Harris didn't get elected for president. And she was talking about the border. And she was talking about grocery prices. She was talking about price gouging. Price gouging. The hell is price gouging? She couldn't even tell us what it was. She just threw it out there and said, yeah, that's what we'll do. They're complaining about grocery prices. No worries. We're going to go ahead and put a fixed price on all grocery prices. Don't worry that it'll turn this into the damn Soviet Union like it was before, and it'll be even a worse crash than before. Happened under Richard Nixon. Don't worry about what history said. How is she going to fix the wars? We're working on a peace treaty. Haven't you been working on that for 4 years now, lady? What? So where are we with the peace treaty? We're working on it. Every time they was in there protesting, we're working on it. Now let me get back to my Trump bashing speech. Is my teleprompter on? There we go. It's on now. Let's get back to our Trump bashing mode. They didn't care about anything that was going on that they created. They're deaf. The left is deaf. They created these problems, ran the election to act like they didn't create the problem. Wait a minute. And so now that the election is over, I love what BX Mail just said. And I tell y'all, this is the most interactive show on YouTube, right? I like to throw that out there. He said, it's refreshing how the networks are scrambling for credibility after the election. You're seeing people like Cenk, and I'm not going to take these people off my list. You're seeing people like Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, right? You're seeing even shows starting to even lose. I heard Joy Reid might have a salary cut. They got rid of Chris Wallace from friggin' CNN because of money, right? You're seeing David Pakman, who's a YouTuber, kick and scream that he's losing subscribers and losing subscriptions because people don't want to listen, which is forcing people to get back to journalism. Chris Cuomo, who I'm going to play up here, talks about it. Because they're starting to understand that people are not falling for the okie doke anymore. They are absolutely scrambling, and we won't forget who these people were for the last 4 to 8 years. We won't forget the last 4 to 8 years, what they were saying, what they were doing. We know what they was trying to do. They're just reading the room now and saying, oh, wow, we were the ones that were deaf. So let me go ahead and get off that. That was the topic for Cenk Uygur.